Hi there, and thank you for joining me again at the Mary C. Doxsee Historic Clothing and Textile Collection here in Patton Hall at Ohio University. This exhibit is on undergarments, mainly undergarments from the late Victorian, early Edwardian era. Now, with regards to undergarments in general, undergarments can not only be used to protect the body, but also to manipulate the body a little bit. With regards to manipulation, I have here an example of a corset from the late Edwardian era. And you can see that it has a heavy or an extensive amount of boning to it. Boning is the actual shaping that's used in the corset. Now, today there are still corsets being made. They usually use plastic boning, but historically speaking, they could use real boning, whale boning, deer bone, as well as things like metal. I have an example here of what boning looks like in a certain corset. This is from a corset from the 1890s, and as you can see, it's very strong metal boning. It also has curved sides and it has enamel at the end to protect it, because with regards to the boning in general with these corsets, you could take out the boning and even shape it a little bit more to your liking or to your body style or dress style. Styles or silhouettes of dresses changed on average around a decade or so, around 100 to 130 years ago at the time. You can even see this corset was actually union made, and it's also dated to 1911. There's also other corsets on display that you can see that as well, which is kind of neat that they do that or did that back then. We don't usually date clothing anymore, which is kind of neat. As you can see, also with the extensive boning, they also had extensive lacing, and as well as a hook and eye closure on the side. So some of these undergarments were quite sophisticated, but some undergarments are things that we also use today with regards to clothing and dress and fashion. Not necessarily in the same way, but the similar style. So take, for instance, the padding that you see on the back of that dress form there. That was used to kind of bump out the backside of a woman with regards to her outfit. That's from the 1880s. That was used where a woman's skirt more or less highlighted the buttocks area of a female. Now, with regards to undergarments in general, what's kind of interesting is they had something called the camisole, which is something we still use today, although albeit slightly differently. An example of a camisole is hanging up over there, and it also is slightly boned as well. However, they had different styles of camisoles, and this is an example of what's called a cami knicker to my left. A cami knicker was actually a one piece. It was a camisole and knickers together. And so that was kind of a new or exciting, innovative dress with regards to dress and fashion in the early 19-teens. That started to be worn in the 19-teens when skirt length started shortening above the ankle. And then, of course, with World War I, a lot of women started joining the workforce and needed clothing that was a little bit more flexible. And the cami knicker was actually pretty popular from the 19-teens up until around the 1940s, when other undergarments became all the rage again and a little more popular. Things like actual separate bras, underwear, things like that. The cami knicker went a little bit out of style at that time. However, what's interesting about fashion in general is you have this cyclical change to it. And the cami knicker became popular again in the 1980s and 1990s, and as well as the 21st century. In the 1980s, it became known as a teddy. Teddies are still worn and used today. Also, another name for the cami knicker is what's called a bodysuit. Bodysuits are still very popular today, worn as undergarments and overgarments as well. They're bodysuits that are, shirts attached to undergarments, things like that. So the cami knicker isn't as old-fashioned as it seems, and it's kind of neat to see how fashion does cycle its way back through to trends. So this is the exhibit that's going on at the Doxsee Collection today, and come on down and see it, and thank you for joining me.